Crazy Eddie lives on Foster, rides a bike without a seat, pissing up all the neighbors. He rides down the wrong side of the street. He's cutting loose. He's drinking juice. Pretty sure that he's out of his fucking mind. He's got crazy hair, creepy fucking stare. Pretty sure that the world that don't let him behind. He can't come in here, he can't buy his own beer. Ever since he wielded that screwdriver like it was a knife. He sits there all day, and the people say, "Well, I don't think that I wanna live crazy at his life." Well, I said, whoa, crazy Eddie. Whoa, crazy
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here for another Sunday hangout. How are you guys doing today? It has been an awesome weekend out here for Kate and I. Her father flew in on Friday night, so been just taking it easy, cooking a bunch of food here, visiting, catching up, all that kind of good stuff. So hope you guys are doing well thus far here on the weekend. We'll see who stumbles in here amongst the chat as we get cruising here. Where Nomad has gone before, was in here earlier. Not sure if you're still here, Greg, but thank you so much for dropping by and saying what's up. This one might be kind of like a relatively quick Sunday hangout. Usually I just blah, blah, blah forever. But yeah, depending on how many people are here in the chat, and we don't have too much to cover here. So we can just kind of get cruising there. That song that you guys heard here at the beginning going into the show is a song called Crazy Eddie, from a band that I was in back in Portland called Absent Minds. So really fun playing that kind of like skate punk music. I grew up listening to that stuff, so love that type of tunage. And yeah, just a fun little short song. We recorded that record ourselves. I tracked everything in a couple different spaces, that just where we were living, and then we took it all to a studio and mixed the album and everything. Really fun putting that one together. So I can leave a link in the description if you guys want to check out any more of that music that you heard there. Yeah, I play bass and sing backup vocals and did a whole bunch of producing and stuff. So yeah, guys, a relatively chill week here at the channel this past week. So the first thing that dropped actually was on Monday. I put out a reaction to some exclusive footage that was released from the Crow fan film Days of Sodom. They basically, Cody Falk, the writer, director, and star of the film, basically had a deal where it was like, hey, if we break $10,000 on our crowdfunding by this day, I'll release some brand new footage you guys haven't seen. So put together a fight scene like in a nightclub, and I just did a straight up reaction to that. I don't want to spoil too much if you guys want to go check out that video. It's really not too long, but just another example of how much production value they're able to squeeze out of the limited budget. And I think the production just passed like 12 or 13,000. So they're humming right along, and they're in the final stretch. I think they've just got another week or two or so to go on the crowdfunding before they are all wrapped up on that campaign there. So yeah, really exciting stuff over there for Crow fans, especially if you're not too pumped on the Bill Skarsgård version of The Crow. Then I think this is a good route for you to, take your fandom, dive into what these folks are doing over there at Wet Paint Pictures. give them a shot as far as checking out that trailer. I also did a reaction to that trailer as well, so you can take a look at that. And then you can hop on over to the crowdfunding and, purchase a perk. I think, you can even just get your name in the credits or like a thank you, which is probably, I can't remember off the top of my head, I would think maybe $10 or $15. I ended up purchasing a Blu-ray, which was about like $30 or so with shipping and all that, maybe closer to 40. But again, when you're supporting independent artists like this, I totally expect to spend a little bit more. But it's really cool to know that it's going towards them, getting to realize their dream of making this film, which is looking really good so far. And we've got Gene Whitacombe in the chat. What's happening, Gene? Hopefully I'm filling that void for you as far as no Frank and Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb this morning. I know that Frank hasn't been feeling well lately. Frank, I hope you feel better soon, man. Yeah, you guys provide so much great entertainment. The back and forth between Darren and Frank just seems so natural and so effortless. And they've got, really similar interests, but a little bit of different sensibilities as far as how they approach things. So it's a great, 1-2 punch, yin and yang kind of thing. So really cool to, to see those guys in action so frequently. But Frank, we hope you get better soon and we can have you guys back. We've got Ryan in the chat. What's happening, Ryan? How's it going, man? How's the weekend treating you? And is it Ryan Olachow? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing the name right. Just want to make sure. So Days of Sodom fight scene reaction is there. That dropped on Monday. You guys can check that out if you'd like. And then this last Wednesday, Kate and I returned with Movie Date with Davey and Kate, and we watched 10 Things I Hate About You, the 1999 classic teen comedy movie. A little bit of a romantic comedy there. And this film is celebrating 25 years, so pretty exciting to cover that one. What can I say here that we already didn't say in our 2-hour-long video? That one was really fun because we talked about the movie, of course, but we really dove into the live chat and had a really great time with everyone over there. So check that one out if you happen to have missed it when it aired. And coming up, we've got it'll probably be a couple of weeks before we return with another Movie Date with Davey and Kate, but Scream 2 is going to be our next episode. So we covered the first Scream in our first episode, and then we're coming back to the franchise. What we like to do is just throw that out to you guys as far as, which episode or which movies we should cover for our episode. So it's really fun to throw those polls out there. Everyone, it's no surprise, a lot of the people that come to this channel really love horror. So to see that Scream 2 won, not shocked at all. We will visit that one here in a couple weeks, and I've also got another poll running right now for franchise rankings because, let's see here, just on Friday, I had dropped my A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise ranking. So you guys remember that back in April, we covered Friday the 13th. That was a lot of fun. Loved the interaction we got from everyone in the comments section. And it seemed like A Nightmare on Elm Street was the pick for the next franchise that we would cover. So I dove into those films, rewatched all of them. Technically, I watched the 2010 remake for the very first time because the first time I tried to watch that movie, I only got about 15 minutes in. So didn't really work for me that time, but watched the whole thing this time around so I could give a fair analysis. Albeit relatively brief. I don't try to do full reviews in these videos. You get kind of 1 minute to 2 minutes on the movie, just depending on where it kind of falls in the rankings. What's happening, Ashton? Ashton Luck is in the chat. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Really appreciate that, of course. Hope the weekend is treating you well so far, my guy. And I know the last few weeks I've been doing these a little bit later on in the day. So let me know in the chat, guys, if you prefer an early evening, hangout on Sundays. Sometimes it just depends on kind of what's going on in my day, depending on if I'm going to do it early in the day or later on in the afternoon. I just figured, with us having some company visiting this week, I would hop on a little earlier. That way it kind of just frees up the day for me and for you guys as well. But let me know what works best for you. Because I always try to, schedule things around, just getting the best attendance we can get here in the chat and on the videos, of course. So yeah, we covered a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise ranking that dropped on Friday. That video's doing pretty well. So, if you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and give it a watch. Click that like button, of course. In fact, if you don't mind clicking the like button here on this video, that would greatly help as well. And guys, we're only 14 subs away from reaching 600. So, I'm not going to cause a big stink over the 600, 700, 800, 900 milestones. We'll just kind of talk about that amongst ourselves here. The next big blowout, I guess, will be for if and when the channel reaches 1,000 subs will be the next big one. So hopefully we can reach that by the end of the summer. With your guys' help, it's definitely possible. And as far as franchise rankings go, guys, there is a poll going on the community tab over there on the channel where you can vote on the next franchise that I rank. So there's the Child's Play franchise, George A. Romero's Dead series. So that's everything from Night of the Living Dead up through Survival of the Dead. And I will include at least the Night of the Living Dead remake in that because George did produce and rewrote the script. So I count it as part of George's series. Whereas, the Dawn of the Dead remake, and there's a plethora of Night of the Living Dead remakes because the film, unfortunately, fell into public domain because of a copyright mistake when the film was, reproduced and sent out to the theaters initially. So, yeah, so we'll cover from Night through Survival, including the 1990 Night of the Living Dead remake will be in there as well. And so, yeah, Child's Play, Romero's Dead series, The Evil Dead, which is one of my favorite franchises of all time, right up there with Halloween. And then the fourth one would be the Scream franchise. So right now, Child's Play is crushing it, guys. So if you love Child's Play, that's great. It's at like 45% out of the 40-some votes. And so if you're not the biggest fan of Child's Play, or you want to see me just cover one of the other, at some point we will get to all of these, right? So if you want to see, your voice represented, go over to the community tab on the main page for the channel and vote and let your voice be heard because I will do whatever you guys tell me to do, essentially. I'm a total sucker for that audience engagement. Absolutely. So yeah, really pumped on these franchise ranking videos. I think they're, I always talk about connecting with you guys and connecting with other content creators. And I purposely held off on doing rankings at the beginning of the channel, like towards the genesis, because I wanted to sort of find my voice, build up a little momentum, and just kind of do, lay a little bit of a foundation before jumping into ranking videos. I think ranking videos are great for getting some views, but I also think it's fun to get to know your audience, let them get to know you a little bit, and then jump into some bigger things like these franchise rankings. So great opportunity to learn what you guys think as far as your rankings, and then also, to connect with other content creators, because I've got a few people who I've sort of become friends with in this space, and, you learn what their favorite franchises are. So, like a guy like Chris Stanley, Cosplay Chris, he's a huge Fred head. As far as I can remember from watching his videos, I'm pretty sure A Nightmare on Elm Street is his favorite franchise. So it's cool to just sort of put something out there knowing that, some of these folks that you've been interacting with and, of course, that you look up to have got a little something for them, And, of course, Cecil Laird from the Horror Show channel has been so awesome, taking me under his wing as I got going here on YouTube, and continues to include me over there at his channel. And I know he's obviously a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan because he wrote and directed Dylan's New Nightmare, which, if you guys haven't seen it, go over to the Horror Show channel, watch Dylan's New Nightmare, give it a view. And yeah, that was a great franchise to go back to. Like I say in the video, I'm relatively lukewarm about A Nightmare on Elm Street, so it's always good to revisit those movies. And you'll see once you watch the video that my rankings kind of shifted on this one. I had it ranked on Letterboxd, and as I watched the movies, I updated my ranking. And man, there was quite a bit of movement on this one. Whereas with the Friday the 13th franchise, there really wasn't much movement at all. Let's see here. We've got Danita Brown in the chat. What's happening, Danita? Thank you so much for subscribing. I feel like I've seen you over on in Dave's chat room, Dave McCrae, and of course Slaughtered Lamb, and probably a whole bunch of others. Thank you so much for popping on over and giving us a shot here. You know, I say this all the time. It's really great to interact with people who I've seen in the chat elsewhere, and then to have them pop in over here. You get to put a face to the name that you see in the chat, and we get to know each other like a little bit better. The chat is always super fun. Love interacting with all of you guys in the chat, but this is just you know, a better platform, I guess, to just sort of really let my personality fly. And we've got Mud Nelson in the chat. What's happening, Gavin? Great to see that your movie watching goal for 2024 is getting closer and closer to being attained. I see that you've been, you know, watching, what was it? Friday the 13th Part 2, I think, only got 2.5 stars on your Letterboxd, which sort of surprised me. I really love that movie, and I find that I rewatch it a lot just because it's so easy to rewatch. I'd love to know why only 2.5 stars. Not that you have to defend yourself. You know how I feel. Like I'm not looking to pick fights over differences in opinion, but I'm always curious to know, you know, what, you know, either brings a film down or brings a film up, just depending on, you know, my perspective on that given film. So yeah, Danita and Gavin are in the chat. It's starting to roll in. We've got 6 people watching. I know, like for me, it was sort of, I got my best night of sleep this week, last night. So I woke up, had to rub the sleep out of my eyes, fix myself a quick little breakfast, and pour some coffee and get in here with you guys. So yeah, let's see what else we had going on. Pretty much for the week, I think that is it for the week. So we covered the Days of Sodom fight scene reaction, if you guys haven't seen it. We covered the 10 Things I Hate About You episode of Movie Date with Davey and Kate, and then of course the franchise ranking there of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, guys, please let me know your thoughts in the chat here. The 2010 A Nightmare on Elm Street remake, do any of you guys like that movie? I had a really tough time. It just sort of bored me. Like, it wasn't offensively bad, but to me it sort of blew my mind that you have a great actor like Jackie Earle Haley. You're taking Freddy back to a darker spot as a character, and for whatever reason, I just feel like it fell completely flat. Like, it sort of just blew up in their face. Everything that Freddy says to me is like, there's not one bone-chilling moment. There's not one creepy, make your skin crawl. And if you read it on the page, like, maybe it would seem a little creepier. There's just something about, I just didn't feel any energy from that movie. Like, it felt like all the pieces were sort of there and it just did not work. Whereas I really enjoy the Friday the 13th remake from 2009. I feel like they, in a similar fashion, they took elements from the first, you know, 3 or 4 movies and kind of pieced them together to make a remake that serves as like a nice reboot, you know, not just a straight remake of the first film. And then even though I don't really enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween remake, I prefer his sequel from 2009. But even though I don't really enjoy the 2007 remake from Halloween, I do think that once you're in the actual like remake section, like the last half of the film, that is way more enjoyable than this A Nightmare on Elm Street remake ever even touched. So curious to know what you guys think there in the chat. Gavin says he just doesn't think the first 2 Friday the 13th films had their footing and the franchise doesn't start until part 3. Yeah, I can kind of see how that makes sense because they are, you know, with the first one being Pamela, the second one being the introduction of Jason, and it's Sackhead Jason, so it's not really the Jason that we're used to. I can totally see that, you know, part 3 is sort of like where he gets his like Michael Myers mask, you know, where it becomes like the official character that we're used to seeing in pop culture, for sure. I can totally see that. Ashton says Friday the 13th Part 2 is better than the first, but a lot of characters are still unlikable. Well, a lot of the characters, even they just go to the bar and we never even see them again, which is an interesting thing about Part 2, is that, you know, there was possibilities for Jason to have like a 15-person body count in that movie. And it's probably closer to like 6, 7, or 8. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if we count Muffin in his body count, but Muffin definitely doesn't make it. She only shows back up in the hallucination or dream that Ginny has at the end. So Jason definitely mangles her. Took a page out of Michael Myers' book as far as maybe he ate a little bit of Muffin. Who knows? Gross stuff. Ashton says, not a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I hated it when I saw it in theaters, and I still hate it now. I totally get you, man. That movie is not fun. And it's funny, they, you know, people say that, what's the actress's name that plays Nancy in the movie? I always forget her name. I do think that, and now I'm forgetting everybody's name. Let me look up I'm going to look up the cast here really quick. Because, Kyle Gallner. I think Kyle Gallner is sort of wasted here. Because I think there's a good performance there. And I even think, you know, a lot of people say that Rooney Mara, that's who played Nancy, that she was just not into, you know, the film at all. A lot of people I've heard people criticize her performance. I think she was okay, like she was fine. I just think the writing was really bad. It takes forever for them to figure out like what's what with Freddy, and going back and forth on is he innocent, is he guilty? I'm just sort of like, is this really the mystery that we need to inject into a Nightmare on Elm Street remake? I sort of touched upon it in my franchise ranking, but it's like they take some exact scenes out of the original and bring it over to the remake, but then they make these other decisions that are totally outside of that. So part of me was sort of like, well, either do your own thing or do a remake. Like, don't try to do this back and forth trying to kind of do it. I mean, even Nancy's name, I see here, it's Nancy Holbrook and not Nancy Thompson. Like, was there a reason? Did they have to change the name? Maybe they did. Maybe there was a legal reason why. I don't understand that. Like, why not just... It's like changing Laurie Strode's name in a remake. And I know that her character changed last names, you know, a couple times in the series, but it was more like for anonymity's sake. But here it's like they just rename the character just to rename the character. Gavin says he loved the diner opening scene. Yeah, I saw your comment that you had just dropped either late last night or early this morning, Gavin. Yeah, you know, the diner is like, it's a nice little... I don't think the acting is really that good from the main guy that's getting... I can't remember the character's name. Is it Dean? That's getting, you know, taunted and killed by Freddy in that scene. I think that's basically... And maybe this movie kind of suffers a little bit from this, where it's like we're hiring models to be actors instead of hiring actors, because there are plenty of handsome actors and actresses that can actually perform. I think this guy that played Dean in the beginning, I'm pretty sure that was him. Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, I think that was him. Is just there's no charisma there. But I do think the mood that they set up in that diner scene, Gavin, absolutely, they're pretty close to doing something good there. They are, at least with their opening like tease of the film, it's probably better than it got, you know, at any point after that. Again, Freddy just didn't... Like, I don't expect to legitimately be scared by a horror movie, but there was nothing about Freddy where I thought, ooh, that's creepy, or, oh, that makes me, like, laugh in a twisted kind of way. I just felt, like, half-hearted, you know? It's too bad. I think there's so much potential with Freddy and with A Nightmare on Elm Street, but they just don't seem to be able to realize that potential. And I think you might have said this as well, Gavin, in your comment that the sequels just don't really do much either. So it's like you've got a really good first film, still kind of goofy, still kind of. I think there's a bit of clumsiness about the filmmaking in the first movie, but I do think that it's the scariest one out of the bunch. So that's what puts it up there for me, and it's pretty spotty from there on out for sure. Ashton says making Freddy a confirmed you do what really brought me down. Yeah. A confirmed like they're talking about the child abuse that's not just the murdering. Yeah, it seemed like that was enough for Freddy just to be a child murderer. You don't need to push it into any of the real creepy stuff because killing kids is bad enough. So yeah, absolutely. We've got Paul in the chat. Evil monsterism. Hey, Davey in chat. I'm out fishing today, so I can't stay, but just wanted to stop in and say hi. Well, happy fishing to you, Paul. I hope you have a great catch today, and that it's relaxing, therapeutic. That you get to meditate a little bit. A little meditative fishing is always good. I feel like that's like one of the things that goes along with fishing is just a little bit of the quiet and getting to be out there with your thoughts a little bit. So I hope it's a good Sunday fishing trip for you, man. Thanks for jumping in and saying what's up. Yeah, Gene, I agree. They need to make Freddy scary again. And that's so how many of you guys in the chat, have you guys watched my video on fan casting Freddy Krueger? Because right around Thanksgiving last year, I did a video where I fan cast Freddy Krueger. I pick one guy that I think would just knock it out of the park. And he's the perfect age because he's 37. So he's the age that Robert was when the first film came out. So if you write a good script and if you set up a story, this could be the guy that plays Freddy for like 3 to 5 movies, just depending on how successful they are and how well written they are. So have you guys seen that video? Let me know, because if not, maybe we can kind of talk about that a little bit here if you guys would like. Let's see here. Gavin says they need to let Mike Flanagan get his hands on the rights for Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, it seems like Mike Flanagan's just the guy that everyone wants for everything because he just became. They brought him into The Exorcist, so he's going to take over the Exorcist movies from David Gordon Green. So I think that's a pretty good fit for Flanagan because he really does a good job at that kind of grounded, real world, almost like, that religious kind of aspect, that like spiritual haunting horror. I really loved that Origins of Evil, the second Ouija movie. I thought was really, really damn good. And yeah, I enjoy the Flanagan thing. Kind of has a vibe similar to what Ty West was doing at the beginning of his career with like House of the Devil and The Innkeepers. I think Flanagan and Ty West, like at least within those, those movies, those early parts of their careers, like very similar sensibilities as far as horror storytelling goes. So yeah, that's good news. And yeah, even if Flanagan comes on to produce and maybe he picks somebody that's the director, but he helps guide the tone of the movie to make sure that, because guys like Mike Flanagan, we want them to still be able to do, we don't want them to just get bogged down in, revisiting franchises that have already either been done to death or franchises we love that we want to see come back. We want guys like Mike Flanagan to be able to tell their own stories too. So I think at some point you're sort of like, all right, well, let Mike Flanagan do his own thing, but maybe he can oversee this project and just make sure that it's in the right hands and make sure that it's done in a way that fits his sensibilities as a filmmaker. So let's see here. We've got Brother Fluff Salisbury in the chat. What's happening, Brother Fluff? Great to see you. How are you doing on this weekend, sir? Welcome, welcome. Where Nomad has gone before says the next time I find a bootleg of Freddy's Nightmare series, I'll buy it. Yeah, I have never seen any of those episodes. Gavin says petition for Ben Stiller to play Freddy. Now that would be interesting. I think he might be a little too old. I think with Freddy, like, I'm thinking late 30s should be the oldest. And, maybe a guy like David Dastmalchian, I would make an exception for him. I think he's in his late 40s right now. So you could have a good run with him. I think he's got the look and the acting chops to put on some good makeup and to bring us a Freddy that looks familiar to what we're used to, but also something a little fresh. So he's a guy that kind of pops out to me because he's got that great face. I've loved him in so many movies he's been in, from The Dark Knight to Ant-Man to, of course, Late Night with the Devil. I absolutely adored his performance in that movie. I think he really brought a level of charm there that you can sort of twist. If you put him in a role like Freddy Krueger, you take that charm and you twist it into something a little jokey, but in this really dark kind of way. But the guy that I think should play Freddy is a guy named Jared Bankins. So if you guys watched the Twisted Metal TV series on Peacock, he plays the main bad guy in that series. He plays like his number one henchman for like the first 3 or 4 episodes. And he just has this, he's really slender. He's got a face that is really angular. And he also played a character in that TV show that takes sick joy out of kind of torturing people and playing with his victims. So it sort of hit me in like the 2nd or 3rd episode of that show where I was like, that guy would make a great Freddy Krueger. And it's not just because of his look, it's because of the character that he's playing right now that I think that would translate so well. So I looked him up on IMDb. I think he turned 37 just in like February or March of this year. So I'm like, he's the perfect age. And he's relatively unknown, which I think is huge for Freddy Krueger because, Robert was an unknown at that point too. He had been in some TV shows. I remember him from the V TV series in the early 80s, but that was right before A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, he was still unknown. He wasn't a movie star. And I think that's kind of a key. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Jackie Earle Haley didn't work so well in the remake. I think the suspension of disbelief is huge for the audience. So if you're able to cast somebody as Freddy Krueger that people aren't used to seeing in a whole bunch of stuff, I think that helps you buy into the fear factor a little bit more. So if you guys haven't checked out that video, I go even deeper into everything. And just check out Jared Bankins on IMDb. Look at some pictures of the guy. Watch that Twisted Metal series, and you'll totally see what I'm talking about. I think he would make a great Freddy Krueger and could play him for, a decade if they do it the right way. Oh, Gavin, you're just joking around about Ben Stiller? Well, I don't know. Maybe if you dressed him up as his character from Happy Gilmore and then put the burn makeup on him. Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards is in the chat. What's happening, Barry? Great to see you. Hopefully it's a lovely day out there in Scotland. And you're about 8 hours ahead of me. So it's, about 6:30 in the evening out there. So good evening to you. Laura Hernandez, what's happening, Laura? So great to see you back in the chat. Laura was a roommate of mine back in Portland years and years ago. Always great to see some familiar faces here in the chat. Barry, 600 subs incoming. I hope so. Hopefully we can reach it today. It would just be cool. Like I said earlier in the stream, I'm not going to make a big stink about any of these, upcoming milestones until we reach 1,000 subs, but certainly we can celebrate those, just within the streams here, just a light celebration. And Barry says Tom Hiddleston for Freddy, if it has to be someone famous. Yeah, and I think Hiddleston's probably in his mid-40s right now, early to mid-40s, I'd imagine. So I think he's a good age if you're going to do 3 to 5 films and you can kind of knock him out. But yeah, you're right. He's pretty high profile. So I think that is a danger there. Now, I don't want to make it seem like I just don't like movie stars, but it's sort of similar to, when I go see a movie, like a movie like World War Z, which we talked about, Barry, and somebody like Brad Pitt is in it. I'm sort of like, is Brad Pitt going to just distract me from this zombie movie? Tom Cruise kind of distracts me a little bit too. I can enjoy his Mission Impossible movies because I know they're just massive budget, Hollywood action movies. but when I watch those movies, I don't find myself completely buying into the universe, if that makes any sense, because there's the guy that jumped on Oprah's couch is just staring me right in the face, you know? A guy I've been seeing in movies for like 40 years, and I know so much about him outside of his acting career. So much of his personal life was dragged into the spotlight. So I think that sort of, you know, kind of takes me out of it. But yeah, I think Tom Hiddleston is a fine actor. Absolute badass at what he does, and I'm sure he could take on anything he'd want. Let's see here. Gavin says, I wouldn't be able to take it serious if Ben hit the blue steel, the Freddy makeup. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, Barry says, what about Kyle Gallner for Freddy? If you've seen The Passenger, maybe you think it could work. Also, he was in the remake. Maybe time to redeem himself. Yeah, and I think he was fine in the remake, given like, you know, what's there on the page. He definitely didn't wow me in the remake, but I do really love Kyle Gallner as a performer. I think he's awesome. I think he was completely wasted in Scream 5. I don't know what is up with Radio Silence, but the way that they go about filmmaking and writing, it just like it's like two ships passing in the night. They just barely miss me. Like Radio Silence gets me really interested in what they're doing, and then they cannot deliver. They're sort of like the J.J. Abrams of horror for me, where it's like, man, this all sounds great. Like you're able to like sell like your idea to me, but then what you actually put on camera doesn't work for me. And getting rid of, I can't even remember the character's name from Scream 5, but getting rid of Kyle Gallner's character that early on, I feel like, number one, you got rid of a really good red herring that you're setting up for your entire movie. So maybe you kill him like 2/3 of the way. Maybe before the house party you kill him, and then we're like, oh shit, I thought it might have been that guy. Who the hell is it now? And then he's just unceremoniously killed. It's like the most boring out of all, you know, Scream has a lot of kind of like boring kills because it's mostly just stabbings. And man, that one takes the cake as far as the most boring, unceremonious, like bad special effects, which how do you get a knife stabbing into someone's neck? How do you do that poorly? Well, I'll tell you how. You use a CG blade and you have no friction at all. So that blade goes into his neck, and when it pulls out, it might as well be, you can tell there's nothing there. And it's just, I don't know what the hell they were doing. I feel like I feel like they just did him dirty. And a guy like Kyle Gallner, who's been in horror ever since he was a kid, with The Haunting in Connecticut, certainly deserves better treatment than that when you put him in a franchise like Scream. And yeah, you're right. I think he could play Freddy. I think enough people don't like the remake to where they wouldn't even try to draw those connective tissue lines. I think that's a solid pick, Barry. And something that I have no doubt he would absolutely jump at the chance to do, because I know, you know, I follow him on Twitter. He's a big, you know, obviously a fan of the genre, and he is, you know, a writer, and I don't know if he produces and directs as well. I think he at least produces, so I think it would be a good fit. Yeah, Barry, check the name tag. You're in my dreams now, Grandma. How about a nice tall glass of shut the hell up? Yeah, Gallner is great in everything these days, is what Barry says there. And Jordan Moran, yeah, Kyle Gallner is fire in Dinner in America. I've yet to see that one. I haven't seen all of his movies, so Jordan, if you don't mind shooting me a DM on either, you know, Twitter or Instagram, or even if you want to leave a comment in the video once we're done here on the stream, and just remind me, because I like to keep a list of the recommendations people throw out. Gavin says, in today's world, they'd probably make Freddy a girl who slept with her high school students or some shit. Yeah, you know, Freddy is one of those, people are very protective of Freddy. It would be interesting if they tried something different. I mean, people have a tough enough time wrapping their minds around a different actor playing Freddy Krueger, let alone if you transformed him, if you did a gender swap or like a race swap, whatever. I guess the way that I feel about like gender and race swaps in general is sort of like, well, couldn't you just come up with your own original idea that has a character like that? You know, I mean, you know, Candyman is a great example of a character that's got, seeps into your consciousness. You can't stop thinking about him. He goes in and out of the real world. So there's similar elements to Freddy, but it's a character with his own unique backstory. It's not a straight up just race swap of that same character because they've created their own mythology. It's a great example of just going and creating your own character that fits those demographics that you think would play into the story, right? Because we always talk about here, similar to what Dave talks about on his channel, is proper motivation. So if you're going to do a gender or a race swap, then maybe like the properly motivated thing to do is just create a character that already, a character and a story that fits those identifiers that you want to have represented in that character. Not to get too deep into it, so let's see here. Ashton says, Radio Silence gets too much into their own hype on their movies. Great directors, but not everything delivers. Yeah, and the thing is their movies do pretty well. So, part of it's sort of like, what the heck am I talking about? Because these guys keep on getting work, of course, right? But that doesn't mean that their work necessarily hits with me. The only film of theirs I haven't seen is Ready or Not, and I bet that would probably be the film of theirs I'd like the most because it's an original idea. We already talked about Abigail last week, so I don't need to jump into any of that. But yeah, the two Scream movies are like, they're okay. Like within the franchise of Scream, they're easily the worst, and but I guess they're all right. It's Scream is a franchise that doesn't necessarily have like a bad movie. But yeah, if you guys have followed the channel for any amount of time, you know that the killer reveals in Scream 5 and 6, like, just brought those movies way down for me. And I predicted in Scream 5 who the killers were within like the first 15 minutes, which I had never done with any of the other Scream movies, but I called it right away. And I think that's kind of a detriment to the film and the writing as well. I feel like there are people that are as audience members, are just so desperate for these characters that when a production team puts together like a C+ studio film, that people talk about a C+ studio film like it's an A- or an A+, when it's just like, it's decent. Like it did the job. I kind of feel the same way a little bit about Evil Dead Rise. I definitely think Evil Dead Rise is better than Scream 5 and Scream 6. But a little bit of like, yeah, this is close, but you could have pushed it a little further and this movie would have been way better. Like, honestly, I don't think they pushed the gore and everything enough in Evil Dead Rise. I was expecting more because the 2013 film just like blew my mind with how they took that original Evil Dead idea and just pushed it to the nth degree. And that's, to the credit of Rob Tappert, Sam Raimi, and Bruce Campbell as producers. They do such a great job of picking filmmakers that they know they can trust, and then a good job of overseeing things, similar to what I think Mike Flanagan should do for some of these franchises, where it's just you oversee it, you make sure it's a good product. And even though Evil Dead Rise didn't like really hit all of the notes for me, I still think it's a good movie, and it did really well. And there's a lot of people that love Evil Dead Rise. So yeah, nothing to shake a stick at, but in a series like Evil Dead where stuff just gets pushed so far as the series goes, I just kind of want to see more of that, especially when the TV show took things further than even Evil Dead Rise did. So when a TV show is going further than your theatrical film, I think it's time to start like upping the ante a little bit. So hopefully the two Evil Dead films that they're working on now will get things back to that like 2013 form and push it even further. Like, I want an Evil Dead film to surprise me. Like, I want there to be gory moments that are sort of like a Jack in the Box popping out, where you kind of know what's coming, and then boom, they really surprise you. Almost like a joke. Like when you hear a really well-constructed joke from a comedian and you think you know what the punchline is, and then they throw you a quick little pivot, and the punchline that they give is even funnier than what you were thinking in your head. That's what I want on the gore side from something like Evil Dead. Something like what Brain Dead / Dead Alive did as well, where you just find yourself like almost like laughing and reeling in disgust at the same time. So that's what I want from Evil Dead. Oh my gosh, I'm missing out on some of the chats here. You guys are great, popping off on the Freddy Krueger talk here. Let's see here. Jordan Moran just got back from Oban. What's Oban? Is that a Jordan? Do you live out there in the UK as well? I don't know. What is Oban? Fill me in. Jordan says, "Do you think Walton Goggins is too old now? He would be my choice." I love Walton Goggins as a performer. I do think, however, that he's too old for Freddy. Now, unless you only want to do a one-off, if you're only looking for one film out of this actor, I think Goggins would be great. He is hilarious. In The Hateful Eight, he totally won me over. I would watch anything with Walton Goggins in it. His the charisma that he has as a performer, I feel like he just becomes the character. I feel like he sucks you right in. There's something about his delivery and his eyes that really just bring you right in. You know, there are those handful of actors out there. I feel like Michael Fassbender's one of them. James McAvoy, these actors that really just draw you in, and you have no choice but to be, you know, it's a tractor beam. Like when I watched X-Men First Class for the very first time, I'm like, I can't believe this. You got two actors in this movie playing the two, you know, main characters, and they're both some of the best performers I've ever seen in my life. Like these two guys, I believe, like with a look, they can convey to me so much. So I think that's one of those things that's kind of understated in acting and maybe not something that most people notice. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. But yeah, I mean, when you can convey so much with so little, that just shows that you've been studying your craft and getting those chops to top-notch status. Barry says Goggins would work for about 10 years. Not a bad choice. Cody Snyder is in the chat. Top of the morning to you as well, Cody. Whereabouts do you find yourself on this lovely Sunday? Are you on a break, or are you out driving around? Let me know. Yeah, I think Walton Goggins is brilliant as well, Cody. Yep. He can play creepy, but is hilarious. Yep, that's true. Goggins is a good, I think he could definitely fit the characterization of Freddy for sure. I think his age, I think he's in his mid-50s now. I do think the age is a concern. That's why I want Jared Bankins. 37 years old, he could play him for the next 10 to 15 years, depending on how successful that franchise goes. So, and then also I try to move away from fan casting Bill Skarsgård in everything. I see a lot of that, and you know, I think Bill is a great actor, but I just see when a lot of people fan cast things, it's like the same three actors that they want to see in everything. So it's like Evan Peters and Bill Skarsgård, and I'm trying to think of somebody else, but it just seems like I try to avoid just going for the easy stuff like that. When I saw Jared Bankins in Twisted Metal, it was like, this is a no-brainer. This guy is Freddy Krueger right now. Let's see here. Barry said he called the Scream 6 killers early on too. Yeah, that's not good. And I don't know if we've talked about this, Barry, but when they do that reveal in Scream 6, for the whole rest of the movie, I was just thinking about how poor of a choice that was. And I was completely distracted by the killer reveal. So it took me out of the movie. That's the last thing the killer reveal in a whodunit movie should do. Like, maybe it makes you think about the moments that you missed out on, and that's okay. But you shouldn't, the whole entire time during that big old fight scene in the theater, I was just kind of pissed off. I felt like they just yanked that rug out from under us. And I feel like that's kind of like Radio Silence's thing. I bet Radio Silence really loves The Last Jedi. I would bet all of the money I have on them thinking that The Last Jedi is a great film that was well thought out and properly motivated 100%. Barry says, if you thought what happened there with the chat? If you thought the cheese grater scene in Evil Dead Rise was nasty, just wait for the cheese grater scene in Boy Kills World. Oh, so they're taking from Evil Dead Rise. All right. So I don't know much about Boy Kills World. I need to watch a trailer because I haven't seen anything other than I saw that you had covered it, Barry, but I try not to, like, if I haven't seen a movie yet or I don't know much about it, I try not to watch reviews because I just don't, I don't want to put the onus on the content creator to not spoil something for me. So sometimes I just try to avoid those until I'm able to see the movie. Gavin says, if only Roy Scheider was still young enough to play Freddy. Yeah, I mean, if Roy were the age 10 year or the age he was in the first Jaws movie right now, I think that he's got the look for it for sure. Roy Scheider is awesome actor. Not only is Roy too old, he died 16 years ago. Rest in peace, Roy. I will say this about Roy Scheider, a true professional as far as giving the audience everything they deserve, because I'm sure you guys have all heard the stories about how he really didn't want to do Jaws 2 and was actively being a problem on set, hoping he would probably get kicked off the movie because he was contractually obligated to appear in the film. But I think as far as performance goes, I don't see any suffering of the performance in Jaws 2. I feel like even though he didn't want to be there, he gave the audience everything they deserved in that performance. And Oban is a place in Scotland. Oban, okay. Pronounced like Oban, okay. Yeah, I've noticed here in America, like one of the things about an American accent is we overpronounce every single vowel. And I've noticed that other English-speaking countries don't do it quite as much as we do. So I appreciate the correction on the pronunciation, especially pronouncing things, in a place like Scotland or even like Ireland, where sometimes the vowels and some of the letters just have a little bit of a different sound than they look to have phonetically. All right. West Scotland had a weekend away with schoolmates. Awesome. Middle-aged men in bliss away from their families. That sounds awesome, man. Yeah. Just hanging out at the pub, walking around, getting silly night after night. Sounds great. Cody is east of Houston, headed there in the morning in Beaumont, Texas. All right. Beaumont, Texas reminds me of Belmont. Makes me think of Castlevania. Simon Belmont, Trevor Belmont. Love that shit. Barry says Sydney Sweeney, Jenna Ortega, and Samara Weaving are the annoying fan casting for every female character. Yeah, and I see Melissa Barrera as well, because there's a group of people out there that feel like it's their personal responsibility to make sure that Melissa Barrera gets work in starring roles, no matter what the movie is. But I think just like every other actor, those roles need to be earned, right? And I thought she was okay in Scream 5, way better in Scream 6. I thought she really upped her game in Scream 6. But in Abigail, I just thought it was like, she was fine. Like there was nothing like wrong with her performance in Abigail. But man, the tonal unevenness in Abigail, I seem to be the only one that noticed it. But while I'm watching that movie, I'm like, are they trying to make me laugh? Are they trying to make me like feel bad that she had to leave her son? Like this tug, this back and forth of like, oh, you're just a junkie who had to leave her son. And then 2 minutes later, they're joking around. I'm just like, what, does this movie want to be serious, or does it want to be more like From Dusk Till Dawn? Because I tell you what, if Abigail were more like From Dusk Till Dawn, like tonal wise, because certainly in the blood department, they kind of bring it to that level. But if they match the tone of From Dusk Till Dawn or something like Brain Dead or like Evil Dead 2, then I would have like really loved that movie. But it was about 15 minutes too long and kind of all over the place for my liking. The last 15 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, really? You're throwing another twist my way? And I was just kind of looking around the theater thinking everyone else seems to be enjoying it, but I felt like a jerk for not really liking it that much. Mississippi. There you go, Barry. Mississippi. Gavin says, I don't want to see Bill in any more shit. Yeah, I think Bill is great, but the oversaturation thing starts to become real. That's one of the things that I have a really tough time with. Like, oh, Chris Hemsworth is in every movie now. Kevin Hart's in every movie. The Rock's in every movie. Like, Chris Pratt, can we just take a break? These people get plenty of work. They've got plenty of money. In the interest of having the audience be able to suspend their disbelief, let's just work in more talented people, because there's plenty of talent out there, right? There's no way that there's only 10 good actors and 10 good actresses in Hollywood. But it seems like for the most part, the studio system wants you to think that. unfortunately. So yeah, I think there's probably a lot of young talent that is just not getting the opportunities that they probably should get. We've got Dynamike Tiger in the chat. What's happening, Dynamike? Says, sup, Davey and the gang. Just popping in real quick to say hi. Well, thank you so much for popping in. Yeah, I hope the weekend is treating you well. It was great meeting you the other day in the movie date with Davey and Kate chat. So thanks for popping on by. Barry says, Melissa Barrera definitely didn't fit the tone of Abigail. I understand she was the serious character, but she brought zero comic relief to the film when everyone else did. And Barry, how about the fact that her and Rickles had 5 or 6 significant looks to each other within the first 40 minutes of that movie? Again, radio silence. I get it. After 2 significant looks, I get it. They've got some unspoken chemistry. Stop hitting me over the head with this, especially if it's not going to lead to us finding out that they knew each other. That's what I thought it was going to be, that they had all these characters aren't supposed to know each other at all. So I was like, oh, is that what's going on? He recognizes her, she recognizes him from part of their past life or something. But no, it's just hitting you over the head with these looks, making you think that these characters are going to smooch when they don't. So radio silence, swing and miss again. Andrew Stevens is in the chat. Welcome, Andrew. How are you doing, man? Says, does anyone else feel like recent modern horror are just doing a lot of fan service and not focusing on making something memorable? Oh, man, that is a really good question, Andrew, and I think you're on to something there. I think there's always going to be movies that try to carve out their own space and do something new. I think a movie like Late Night with the Devil, even though there are a couple films like it that it definitely takes some influence from, I think they did find their own little niche there. Especially the opening reminded me of Citizen Kane's opening. The ending kind of reminded me of the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey. So they're really working in some heavy hitters there as influence as well that are, influence outside of horror. But yeah, I think sometimes it's just... people want to tap into something that's maybe they feel is a little more bankable. So when studios are putting millions of dollars out there for movies, yeah, they want to make sure that they can catch people and that there's a hook. And I think we're seeing it a lot in horror movies and a lot in the comic book movies, that genre as well, where it's the hook is, hey, remember this? You remember that? Remember? Come on back. Don't you remember? So it's that nostalgia chase, which I certainly understand to a degree. I mean, I'm looking forward to Alien Romulus, and maybe it's not so much the nostalgia, but because I love what Fede Alvarez does as a director, and I trust that he'll be able to bring that tension from the first film and maybe even mix in a little bit of the action from something like Aliens. But I feel like it'll be right between those movies. I think canonically it fits between those movies, and I hope the tone is kind of between those, because I like that haunted house feeling of the original Alien movie for sure. So yeah, they definitely get me a little bit with those fan service moments. But yeah, I think that that you're right. There is something to say for especially not making the film memorable. Everyone is really touting Abigail right now, but let's see who's talking about Abigail in 5 years, because I don't think there's anything that memorable in that movie. To me, it's House on Haunted Hill from the 90s. Was that 99, House on Haunted Hill? That kind of movie where it's just a ragtag group of people that are stuck in a house, and they all have different personality quirks, and they have a funny back and forth with each other and different dynamics set up. But then it just seems like that movie doesn't really know what the hell it wants to be. And Barry is in agreement with Andrew. Good to see. The main kid from Stranger Things is another one. Finn Wolfhard, he's just in everything. Yeah. Have you guys ever seen Finn Wolfhard was in a couple videos? There's a Canadian band called Pup. Have you guys ever heard of Pup? Really awesome band, by the way. Fucking incredible music. And I think it's their self-titled record. There's a couple videos that Finn, and I think one of the other kids from Stranger Things was in, and that was a couple years before Stranger Things popped off, maybe even 3 or 4 years before. But really cool music videos, great band. Yeah, if you haven't checked out Pup and you like either punk rock or you just like really driving rock and roll, they're a wild band. They sound like an unbridled, like a group of wild horses like running through a field. Like they just, it almost feels like it's going off the rails, but it's like they're so tight. They're such good musicians. Every single one of them sings in the band too. So they have a lead singer, but the other three guys, including the drummer, do backups. And so they just have this massive sound as a band. I mean, you guys know from watching the channel that I'm a huge music fan, so I could definitely talk music for ages on here, but we'll try to keep it on the rails here. Dynamite Tiger, did you enjoy The Fall Guy? I heard it's sort of like a really fun kind of popcorny movie. You know, something that's not going to change your life, but something that's really fun. And Barry says Sydney was incredible and immaculate. I didn't think she was good until immaculate. Yeah, and I've never seen her in anything other than a couple SNL skits. So I didn't think that comedy movie she was in looked funny at all. So It Had to Be You or whatever that's called with the guy from Top Gun. I had no interest in seeing that. Cody says, I'll give a pass to guys like Danny Trejo. He can be in everything. Well, yeah, and Danny always finds a way, you know, for the most part of being like a auxiliary kind of character on the side. So I think that's different. Like when you're talking character actors, of course, I like seeing character actors pop up in whatever they fit in. But yeah, as far as like the marquee names that just have to be the stars for everything, I'm just sort of over that. It's just one of the many things that Hollywood does that I don't really understand. The other thing that Hollywood does that I don't really understand is they call out other communities for having abuse problems, but don't seem to think that they have a problem with all of the abuse that happens within that community. Completely wild. Danny Trejo can do no wrong is what Gavin says. I agree. Ashton says The Rock just needs to take a little break till he gets his ego in check. Used to love the guy, but the last few years he's been kind of abysmal. Yeah, I heard there's a big old stink going on lately because some, he's costing a movie that he's making right now. He's costing him a whole bunch of money for being late. And then, of course, killing Henry Cavill's Superman, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Barry, their relationship felt like it was being written as they were filming. That whole thing, it's just like, why? I get it. After 2 significant looks, I get it. But when you keep on hitting me over the head and then Rickles dies like 5 minutes after the last one that they do, I'm just sort of like, radio silence, get your act together, guys. All right, guys, let's see here. I am falling so far behind. Cody says, my problem is the inclusion of Billy. Pure fan service. Makes no sense otherwise. Billy in bringing him back to Scream. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did think that was kind of odd. I especially think if you're going to do it in part 5, maybe you don't need to bring it back to part 6 because we already get that that's what Sam's going through. I do really like Skeet Ulrich, but I think it's kind of an odd, story choice for sure. Cody says he enjoyed the new Scream movies more than Ends or even Kills, but having Billy in there is just to get Ulrich on the screen. Yeah, I definitely like Kills and Ends way more than I like the new Scream movies, but I get it. Like, the Scream movies are so, there's like a formula that they stick to, and they definitely don't go outside of that formula in those movies. I just don't think they executed as well as Wes did before that. And Jordan, yeah, man, check out Pup. I hope you dig it. I'm not as familiar with their newer records. I just haven't, given them as much listen time as that very first one. But the first one's got like a picture. It's like a black and white picture of some teeth close up, and pup, the word pup is scratched in to like the actual picture. Really awesome record, front to back. Not a bad track on there. Just watched a little of Pup. I like it. The song I watched had a bit of Blink-182 vibe. Yeah, they've definitely got, I would say a little rougher, a little tougher than Blink-182, but they've definitely got some riffage there for sure. Andrew says, I'm going to be one of those guys. I don't get the hype for Abigail. Not saying trailers spoil it, but didn't kind of. Well, that's the funny thing, Andrew. And let's talk about that for a second. Because everyone that's defending Abigail, I think is being a little disingenuous about it, because I've seen like 5 or 6 posts from Cody Leach defending Abigail, as if he's a producer or a writer on the film. I know that he got to see it at the, the pre-screening premiere with the filmmakers there, and maybe that kind of put some rose-colored glasses on the experience of watching the film. But every time he every time he responds to the people that don't really enjoy the movie, he brings this up, and I've seen other people bring it up too, where it's like, oh, did the trailer giving away Abigail being a vampire? That's, if you think that ruined the movie, then you just like don't understand. And it's like, I think that's disingenuous, because I don't think that's the issue with the trailer. The issue with the trailer is not that Abigail was revealed as the vampire. The issue with the trailer is that it makes the movie look like a really fun time, an easy to watch film that gets you in, gives you what you're expecting, and gets you out. That movie, though, ended up being an hour and 47 minutes. The last 15 to 20 minutes, they have a couple different added twists to the plot that I thought were just sort of like, oh, great, here we go. And so to me, the problem with the trailer is I'm sitting there for 40 minutes waiting for the action to hit when I already know the basic premise. So since I already know the basic premise, can we just get to, like, at the 25-minute mark, can we start getting to knocking the characters off? Like, do we have to wait 40 minutes? So yeah, I've seen it so much out there where people are just, oh, Abigail being a vampire, if that ruins the movie for you, you don't know what you're talking about. But that is not the case. What ruins the movie is they take forever to get going, and the movie's about 15 minutes too long. That's just my opinion. Maybe, Andrew, I don't know if you resonate with that. Let me know in the chat. But yeah, that was the issue that I had, or that's what kept me from enjoying Abigail more than I had hoped. I thought I was going to be blown away. But yeah, it just wasn't very much fun for me. It felt like work. Gavin says, I'll accept it if they cast Nick Cage in every role ever. Cody, I get having him as Sam's dad, but this is from Ashton. Cody, I get having him as Sam's dad, but I don't think they needed to bring Skeet back for it. Oh, okay. Yeah, just like she hears the voice or something. Nailed it on the Fall Guy description, says Dynamite Tiger. Little corny at first, then it got real and punched me in the gut. Had elements of that old school summer blockbuster feel. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I would imagine maybe it feels like something like True Lies or Last Action Hero. A little bit like that. There you go, Cody. Her own personal Force ghost. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Yeah. Scream, brought to you by Rian Johnson. Yeah, with her father, she had no relationship with. She didn't even know what he looked like. So I guess it's the audience. It's what the audience remembers Billy looking like. Because how would she know what he looked like, really? He wouldn't be wearing that the same t-shirt, the same clothes he was wearing when he died in the first film, which I think is what they were going for. And also, Skeet got like buff, man. He really bulked up, not in a fat way. Like he got like, so even though they de-age his face, man, he looked like he was so skinny in the very first film. A relatively young guy. So I think there was a little bit of that uncanny valley for me, just because he didn't look the same as he looked in the first film. Tarantino scrapped the movie critic, is going a completely different way. Oh yeah, Gavin. Yeah, he's gonna pick a different movie to make. I would love it if Tarantino did like an Evil Dead film, or man, I think they picked a director for George Romero's last movie that he had written before he died. But I would love to see Tarantino do, even if it's an original story, do kind of like a zombie film in a Romero style setting. I think that would be great, because when I watch Tarantino's films, I hear a lot of influence and see a lot of influence from Romero. Like the dialogue that Tarantino writes reminds me so much of Romero's dialogue from Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead specifically. Cody says, since they brought Billy back, then go ahead and bring back Lillard. Yeah, I just don't think there's any way that Stu survived the first film. So for me, it would take me a little bit out of it, because he was stabbed. He already felt like he was dying, and then a TV was dropped on his head. So the likelihood of him having survived and us not having heard about it throughout the course of the subsequent 5 films, I think bringing back Stu, for me, would make me less interested in Part 7. But I think I'm in the minority there on that one. Let's see here. Cody, I really don't want Stu back. It'll make 0 sense. So Ashton and I are on the same page. All right, there we go. I knew Abigail was a vampire movie the second they announced it. I don't get why people were acting like it was supposed to be a secret. Yeah. And then Andrew says, bang on, Davey. That's my whole process. I guess I'm not a fan of modern horror. Well, I don't think it's necessarily that, Andrew. I think it's just there's always going to be filmmakers out there that are making things in like a modern way and maybe in an old school way, or maybe a blending of the two, which like I think like a movie like Late Night with the Devil is a modern horror movie that really really worked for me, whereas Abigail just didn't work as much. But yeah, I think to me it's Andrew, like you're not new to this. I totally subscribe to everything that Dave preaches over on his channel, making sure that things are properly motivated, that there is good mood and atmosphere. And really, I think if you keep on going back and asking yourself if a story decision or a character decision is properly motivated, and you just make sure as you go through the writing process that everything fits, then I think you're going to come out with a good movie in the end, right? So I just don't think there's much attention to detail anymore when it comes to that kind of stuff, unfortunately. Barry says he assumes Sam saw her dad from the crime scene photos. And yeah, maybe there is an element of that. To me, it was a bit jarring to see Ghost Billy show up. The voice probably would have been enough for me. But yeah, I mean, Scream 5 and 6, it's like C+ movies right there for me. Ashton says, I like Cody Leach, but a lot of times he seems like he tries to push his own points around too much. Yeah, and I think, when you're like, he's massively successful, right? And I've watched so many of Cody's videos. I really, enjoy the content he puts out for the most part. I find that since I started doing my own channel, that maybe I do watch a little less of people that just do straight up reviews. And this doesn't pertain to Cody Leach specifically. Maybe a little bit, but I think as I've like started the channel and as the channel's continued to grow and I've, been taking on new things here, I have like maybe lost a little bit of respect for some of the creators out there. And then at the same time gained more respect for the creators that I really enjoy and look up to. People like Drum Dums and people like Barry here and Chris Stanley. I feel like my enjoyment and admiration for those guys has gone up. And then I don't want to name channels names, when talking ill of them, but there have been some channels where I'm just like, man, I just don't think you're really trying that hard. And then, yeah, like what you're saying here, pushing like, your own points. And again, it's like taking it personally. So, but that's kind of like the gravitas that comes with having like so many subscribers and, being able to make a living off of what you do on YouTube. I can certainly see how that would like bolster your, the way you feel about your opinions, that your opinions really are something that should be heard because you've got a lot of people following you that, I mean, they literally follow you. They want to know your opinion. So I can't fault Cody for being out there and being vocal about how he feels. But I do think there's some disingenuousness going on when people, it seems like they're deliberately not listening to the real gripe and they're saying, oh, you're actually complaining about this other thing. So when people purposely misunderstand, I kind of take issue with that. So it happens in politics a lot where people are like, oh, so you're saying this. And it's like, no, I actually said this. And then you're just like running with it and turning it into something that it never was meant to be. And I feel like people do that with film opinions too. So, oh, you didn't like this movie because you don't like women, or you didn't like this movie because you don't like people that have this skin color or whatever. And it's like, no, I just explained why I didn't like the movie. And I like plenty of movies that have this or that in it. So it's really odd that you just jump to that conclusion. But I guess it's like, it's easy to marginalize someone and marginalize their opinion if you just like whittle it down to the most simple thing and you turn it into a question of, oh, this person just has a prejudice and that's why they don't like this. And it's like, oh, now you don't have to rightfully defend why this piece of art makes sense for you. You don't want to have a conversation about why the piece of art works for you versus why it doesn't work for someone else. Maybe even if it doesn't change your mind, like I love Halloween Ends, right? But I really don't feel the need to like defend it too much because I understand why people don't like it. Like, so I'm not sitting there going, oh, you don't like Halloween Ends because you just don't want to see anything different in the franchise. Like, well, that's not the case. Like, the people that don't like Halloween Ends have got some really good points. The film works for me. I totally see that their points are valid. And even with the rankings, guys, if you look in the comment section on the rankings videos, I out of genuine curiosity, I want to know why people rank things a certain way sometimes. And I really am curious because it fascinates me. And then I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit and be like, what about New Nightmare didn't work for you? Or what about Freddy's Revenge pushes it to the second in your ranking? You know, just to me, I find those things fascinating and there's no reason to take it personally. But I will try to get off my soapbox here because you guys are popping off on the chat. We got Jamie Hart in the chat. Welcome back, Jamie. Feel like it's been a couple weeks. It's great to see you in the chat again. And yeah, it's humming along, guys. We've got 12 people watching right now. When the stream started, it was just me. And I was like, oh no, here we go. My first stream all by myself. So thank you guys so much for not leaving me to be alone here. Let's see what you guys are talking about here. I know I've been missing out quite a bit. Oh my gosh. Oh, there we go. I'd love to see Tarantino do a horror thriller, but with how many people responded to Death Proof, we probably won't be getting that. He's stuck in his old Hollywood ways. Yeah, that's why I think it would be cool if he did like a Romero style zombie film would be super cool. And he could get it done. I mean, you talk about a cheap movie to make. He could bring in K&B to do the effects. I would imagine they would give him a nice little discount there. So yeah. Maybe if we didn't have social media marketing all these films, maybe we can, the hype would be a little, yeah. It's nice when the hype is generated from the audiences that see the movie and not just because when I saw the trailer for Abigail, I was like, oh man, this looks like a riot, just a fun time. Totally got those like From Dusk Till Dawn vibes, and then the movie just did really not deliver on that vibe at all. Dynamite says From Dusk Till Dawn is already my second favorite vampire film next to The Lost Boys. That's a good 1-2 punch right there. Barry, that show fell off after 4. Oh, you guys talking about Dexter? I have not seen Dexter. Well, I've seen a couple episodes here and there, so I'm the last guy that should be talking about that. Let's see here. Cody says, happy birthday to Lance Henriksen, my favorite actor, a true legend. He's 84 today. Grateful for that, man. And you met him in 2018. That's awesome, Cody. Lance is an amazing actor. Talk about a guy that has such a great, film history. You go to his IMDb, so many awesome movies he's been in, and that he still, finds his way going back to horror and doing some like relatively smaller films. Yeah, what an awesome actor. Man, I mean, if you've been in Aliens and you've been in the first Terminator movie, and then I'm trying to think of every other movie I've seen Lance in. I feel like I've seen him in so damn many, and you guys know how my brain goes on these live streams. It sort of goes in and out. Jordan says, a problem for me ever since the 90s is movies dating themselves really badly with style choices and pandering to the audiences, misconstruing fan service as Easter eggs. Yeah. I also think like one thing great that the Evil Dead 2013 film did is that there was no mention of cell phones. So even though the characters feel like, you just assume it's a modern world, you see the vehicles they drive in on. There's not one instance where someone's like, I can't get service. And it's just sort of nice to not have that element involved, especially in a movie like that. It would take you out of an Evil Dead movie. And talk about film openings, talk about all-time horror film openings, guys. Where does the Evil Dead 2013 opening rank in your pantheon of horror openings? Because that's got to be one of the best of all time. Like, I mean, I know they did a great job with the title card and Evil Dead Rise. I thought that opening was pretty dang good as well. But man, 2013 is just, you know what you're in for. After that scene, you're like, all right, well, I'm buckling up officially and getting ready for the mayhem that is about to ensue. Jamie says she met Lance Henriksen at Scarefest. She was starstruck and speechless, and he was super nice about her stuttering. Yeah, it's really cool to meet these actors and actresses, and for them to have those real like human moments with the fans. You know, it's something that for them has got to be a relief just to interact with people, you know, away from the movie set and all that stuff. And then for us, it's really cool just to, you know, get to meet these people we've looked up to and enjoyed their work for so long, right? Barry says, we both love H2O, and that's all that matters, Davey. Yeah, I mean, I like H2O. I think that, yeah, I think there's negatives about H2O, but I certainly don't dislike it. Maybe it is in the back half of my ranking, though, so don't hate me too much. But I can't wait to talk H2O with you, Barry. Going right back to what I think you're referencing here as far as being able to give well thought out reasons for why something doesn't work for you. I think it's going to be a great conversation when we go back and forth on that, because the gripes that I have go so much deeper than just a surface level, blanket, oh, I don't like the mask kind of statement, so that'll be fun. Cody Snyder says, Jamie, he's the coolest. Talking about Lance Henriksen still. Let's see here. Added a second signature to my copy of his autograph. That's hilarious. Dynamite Tiger says, I love how well you articulate stuff, Davey. It's awesome. We each have our own opinions. It's fun. Nothing personal at all. Well, thank you so much, Dynamite Tiger. I feel the same way. So anytime I talk, negatively or positively about, a film or a performance, a piece of art or something like that, I always try to give some sort of reasoning behind it. And that's exactly why, right? I'm not looking to get into a fight with anyone. To me, it's like one of the reasons why art gets put out there in the world is so we can discuss it, so we can experience it. Once a piece of art gets put out there, it ceases to be the creators, it ceases to become just owned by the creators. It's now owned by everyone, right? So the audience has some ownership as well. And what we take away from, whether it's looking at a painting, reading a book, playing a video game, watching a movie, TV show, whatever, what we take away from it ends up becoming part of what that art means for the rest of existence, which is a pretty powerful thing when you think about it. So I do think it's really important that the audience, is as educated as they want to be, that we all aim to be a smarter audience, hopefully, because I think a smarter audience will make for better art, because we'll hold lesser art to accountability, and it'll stop being made, hopefully. You're never going to get rid of bad art, but I think the more we have conversations about things, I think the more consistently we can get good art, for sure. Oh, Barry, you're so sweet. I'm very articulate in my explanations. Well, I try to be. I'm very verbose, That's probably why Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb says I remind him of a younger Dave McRae, because I will explain one thought, and it'll take me 3 minutes to get around to my point. Jamie says, thanks for the warm welcome. I've been sick and struggling a bit. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Jamie. Doc is changing my meds, so I should be back to streaming soon. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon as well. And I hope whatever is ailing you is something that you guys can figure out. And look forward to seeing you, back in ship shape as soon as you're ready. Let's see here. Tarantino loves practical effects, and he's friends with Greg Nicotero and Tom Savini. Yeah, no, absolutely. Which is why I think it would be easy to get these guys to come in and do a movie, and maybe even bring them in as producers so they can make money off the back end. Little less money to spend on their services up front. I think Tarantino for about $20 million could make an amazing zombie film. And that's what I would love to see from him. Absolutely. Especially, it would be cool if it were like a spiritual successor to a George Romero film, because George is I would say my favorite director of all time. So it would be really cool to see somebody like Tarantino jump in on that. Let's see here. Favorite Lance Henriksen role is Near Dark, says Jamie Hart. That's a one that I forgot in my list. Yeah, absolutely. So underrated. I think it's getting so much more love too lately, especially within the horror community. But I get what you're saying, Jamie. As far as pop culture goes, people will talk about Lost Boys. They don't necessarily bring up a movie like Near Dark, you know. Jordan Moran says, couldn't agree more. When you read that, I realized just how much on my soapbox I got. Yeah, you know, I think it's funny. I mean, it's like one of the reasons why you have a channel, kind of, so you can give out your opinion. And certainly when you have people you're interacting with, it makes you feel a little more emboldened to give that opinion. So yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out and you know, and letting me chit chat. And yeah, absolutely, Jamie. Prayers from our end as well. I hope you feel better soon. Let's see here. Barry says Evil Dead 2013 opening was really good, but honestly, it was forgettable until you press play again. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not directly tied to the whole rest of the story. I mean, in a sense, it kind of is, because it's like the beginning of that spirit, just sort of, or not the beginning, but it is like the remnants of that spirit are lingering there for sure. I just think for, you know, almost like a mini film that you get, kind of like what they did in the 2009 Friday the 13th remake, where you get like almost like its own little tiny movie and then boom, credit sequence. But man, I don't know, that opening had a huge impact on me. The first time I watched that, when that father blows his daughter's head off, and then it just hits you with that kind of sound as the title hits the screen. I mean, I was blown away. I didn't, you know, I'm a huge fan of Evil Dead, so I was protective going into that experience. And every minute I kept on watching, I was like, they're giving me everything that I want here, you know? Let's see here. Evil Dead 2013 fucking rules is what Gavin says. They perfected gore in that one. Absolutely. Yep. All right, so I think I'm mostly caught up here. We've got Medley Man in the chat. Medley Man, I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. Is this your first time? Let me know. I always like to try to, you know, remember when it's their first time in the chat. What do I think of Halloween 6? Well, I think it's one of the movies that I warm up to more and more as the years go on. I, for the most part, prefer the producer's cut because it takes a little bit of time. It's got some really nice tracking shots around the university and around the Strode house that remind me of the first film. And I like the music a lot more in the producer's cut. But in the theatrical cut, there's some things I really enjoy, like, you know, some of the added gore and stuff like that in the theatrical cut. Even though like both endings aren't really that great, I guess maybe the theatrical cut ending is a little bit better than the producer's cut, but I think it's kind of splitting hairs there on that one, honestly. But yeah, I enjoy Halloween 6. I certainly enjoy it more than Part 5. And of course, I enjoy it more than Resurrection. I probably like it more than H2O as well. But we will be doing a Halloween franchise ranking in October, so I will hold off on that ranking until then, just so it matches up with what everyone's watching at that time. I think it'll be the perfect time to dive into those movies for sure. Cody says, Davey, I posted a picture with him on my IG with my buddy Tyler, Horror Hound Indianapolis. Okay, man, I will check that out here once we hop off. Lance has always been a big slasher fan. Yeah, it seems like he's a fan of the genre to be, you know, such a part of it. And how can you not, as an actor, how can you not enjoy slashers? They're just so much fun. They're like these roller coaster rides you go on, right? Tangerine Dream always provided great music for movies. Yeah, that's a good soundtrack band for sure. Let's see here. First time Medley Man, well, welcome. I guess now is a good time just to remind you guys to please hit that like button on the stream if you haven't already. It certainly helps us get more views. You know, once we're, you know, off the live part of it, it helps it gain a little more traction down the road. And then it also helps for the next time I go live, just getting some visibility out there. And if you have not subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe as well. When we started the stream here, we were just 14 subs away from 600, which would be really cool to reach that milestone here this afternoon. So yeah, and of course, Medley Man, feel free to check out some of the other videos that we have here. Got a whole bunch of live stuff similar to this, and some other live shows where we, you know, stay on like one topic a little bit more. And then I've got a bunch of pre-recorded material as well. So some franchise rankings you can see there. There's the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise ranking. I've also got one for Friday the 13th out there as well. Let's see here. Barry says, I didn't hear you just say you enjoyed Curse over H2O. Nuh-uh. Soccer. I don't know, Barry. You know, my feelings on those movies, they're probably really close to each other as far as where they fall in the ranking. But yeah, we will get into all the H2O business when we do our show together. And maybe you'll understand a little bit more of why H2O fits where it fits in my personal ranking. But I won't apologize for it, and neither should you, Barry. You should never apologize for your opinions on your own channel, because you're really smart and you do a great job, and your audience is there for you, man. Absolutely. Ashton says we won't discuss Halloween 5 in my house. That's great. You're a real John Strode when it comes down to talking about Halloween 5, right? Why don't you give her all our damn money? You guys are having some great James Cameron, Catherine Bigelow chat here about Near Dark and all that. Jamie says Paul Rudd was an odd choice for Tommy Doyle, though. He's so hot, it's distracting. Plus, I had seen Clueless, and I was like, this is just too weird. He is hot? I guess maybe he is kind of hot in Halloween 6. I don't know. I think the odd thing about Paul Rudd... It's like looking back, it's easy to say it was an odd choice because he's become such a huge star. But at the time, I think he might have even shot that movie before Clueless, and they both came out, I think, the same year in '95. And I think the odd thing about the performance is his voice. He does this really weird, like, Michael Myers was 6 years old when he stabbed his sister to death. It's this weird, like, mid-Atlantic, like, people in the United States of America have not talked like that since like the 1930s and 40s. Like, it's like when you watch, like when Trey Parker from South Park does like his Snacky S'mores supports the troops over in Operation Get Behind the Dockies or whatever, you know, it's like this really silly, like newsreel kind of voice. And I think that for me, that's what's sort of like distracting. But man, what's really distracting about Anthony Michael Hall's Tommy Doyle and Halloween Kills is the terrible dialogue they gave him and the fact that he repeats almost every line they gave him. That whole like night, 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 and eyes open, eyes open. I don't know what the hell they were doing with his writing on that movie. I think Anthony Michael Hall could have had a bit more of a better performance there if the writing was a bit better as well. Yes, Andrew, help the algorithm. Help me beat the algorithm by liking and subscribing. And you know what? If there's someone in your life that enjoys this kind of content and maybe they haven't found their way to the channel yet, but you think that it's something that they would, you know, like to dip into. I know that the way that I am as a massive YouTube fan is like, I can't get enough of it. So if I find somebody new that's covering the content I like, I just jump into that rabbit hole on their channel and just binge their videos. So if you know somebody in your life that hasn't found their way over to the Davey Death Ray channel, then point them in our direction. And, you know, who knows? Maybe they'll jump in the chat one day with you and we can all have a fun time here. Let's see here. Sorry, not sorry, says Barry. Yep, I gotcha. I guess Curse of Michael Myers is a Clueless knockoff. That's a funny way to think of it, yeah. Medley Man says, I think H2O is a severely overrated film, but that also makes people severely underrate it. I personally think it's bottom 6. Well, I'd put it in the bottom 6 as well. I think for me, H2O beats out, definitely beats out Rob Zombie's remake, completely beats out Resurrection, Halloween 5, for sure. Halloween 4 is a movie that most people really love, but I'm pretty lukewarm on that one because the mask is so bad and takes me out of it. So yeah, we'll see in October where I put those films after I watch them all for the 40th time each, or however many times it's been. If I hear Anthony Michael Hall scream "Evil dies tonight" again, it'll be too soon, says Ashton. Yeah, he was funny at the H45 about all that. Love to slap at a little bass man. Is that what you're doing? You're doing a little Jamaica thing there? Cody says, I watched H2O a lot as a kid. I love it. The mask wasn't it, but if they had a better mask with his eyes blacked out, Carpenter and Hill on board would have been an ultimate sequel. Possibly. I think the first act of H2O is really, really strong. And if they kept with the tone of the first act, that movie would probably be in the top 5 for me. But well, also the writing would be more consistent, and just having the mask be consistent. Even if I don't like the Stan Winston mask, like I love Stan Winston's work, I don't really enjoy the mask too much. But if it were just the only mask they used, it would be so much better. I think to me, it's not the way the mask looks in that movie. It's the fact that you have like 4 or 5 different masks. That is, because to me, when I rank Halloween movies, the portrayal of Michael is the most important thing to me. So that's why a movie like, Kills is going to be closer to the top of my ranking than a movie like H2O or even H4. I don't think, Jamie says, I agree about Anthony Michael Hall. I don't think Kills is a perfect movie, but boy, was it fun. Yeah, I think what Kills delivers, like, with the title being Halloween Kills and the fact that it delivers on the brutality, I think that certainly helps it. There is that 15 to 20 minutes that doesn't really need to be in there with Tivoli. That's really like heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, and horrific in a way that I don't really want my Halloween movie to be gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, and horrific. So I think that sort of like is a stumbling point for me, for sure. Oh my gosh, Barry said, we're just killing Barry here. Yeah, it's not Scream music. Yeah, the music doesn't really take me too much out of H2O. Again, I don't want to spoil everything because Barry and I are going to have a really awesome, I think, insightful conversation about what works for H2O and what doesn't work. Really don't want to spoil all of that here on these lives because I think that'll be an awesome stream for you guys to jump in on and check out. I don't know if we've landed on a title yet, Barry, but I do like the title, Why We're Wrong. And then we both kind of say like what we like, what we don't like, and why each other is mistaken about that. So that'll be a fun back and forth. Medley Man says, I definitely think Rob Zombie's films are underrated. The second one in particular is a beautiful story about how trauma affects people. Well, I'm with you on the second movie there, Medley Man. I do really like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I think it's like right in the middle of my ranking. I think it's so much better than his remake. And I like movies, especially in long-running franchises, I like movies that take chances. And I think that Halloween 2 certainly takes a lot of chances. Now, not everything works for me in Halloween 2, but the things that work for me work really, really well. And I'm not going to let a few little things take it down because every movie out there has a few things that doesn't work. Like there's like maybe Jaws is like the only movie to me that's like perfect. Empire Strikes Back, maybe that's another one that's perfect. But like the original Evil Dead is one of my favorite films of all time, but I'm not going to act like there aren't mistakes in the film or things that like could technically look better. But I just appreciate so much what they're going after in that film and how well they attain it with such a small crew that to me that elevates it to a whole new level. I've said it so much here on the channel. The original Evil Dead to me is the most punk rock film of all time because it really is do it yourself. Sometimes there are only like 3 or 4 people on set. On set at the cabin, let's just call it for what it is, and on location, I suppose. And I just think what they accomplished there is, and the fact that they just didn't give themselves limitations and found a way to do everything they wanted to do. Now, regardless of like how that stands up to modern effects and everything, we can talk about that certainly. But they made the movie that they wanted to make and found a way to get every damn shot that they wanted. And I respect the hell out of that approach. And to me, it helps elevate that film. Wolfman says, Barry says title, Davey is wrong, Barry is right. That's it. Yeah. Wrong or right. And then our names go back and forth on the title card. And there's like a shrug emoji. And we let you decide which one is right or who's right and who's wrong. Andrew says, just think of this. I put 18 as fourth best, but enjoy kills over 18 and ends. Okay, well, that's interesting. I think I enjoy 18 over kills, but they're right there. The David Gordon Green trilogy is in my top 5, last I checked. So, Cody, right there with you. In the spirit of talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 real quick, I do want to remind you guys that coming up here in August, I'm going to be doing a video with Nick from the Lost River Drive-In and Lee over at Drum Dums. We're all huge fans of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We're coming up on the 15th anniversary of the film, and I thought it would be fun to, collaborate with a couple of YouTubers whose work I really enjoy and who share a big love for that film. So I think that'll be on this channel here. I, started all those conversations, but I do want to make sure the video gets as much views as possible. So who knows? Maybe we'll go through Drum Dums and it'll be a good way to redirect traffic over here. Not sure how that's all going to go. Most important thing to me is that we put out a great video that speaks to you guys, speaks to the people that already love the movie, and then maybe people that are on the fence or don't like it that much. Maybe there's some nuggets in there that we can mention and talk about that would, give you a different perspective the next time you revisit the movie, and maybe you'd find that you enjoy it a little bit more. Again, the idea is to not change people's opinions with my own opinions. But what I like to do when people tell me their opinions is just keep those things in mind and see how it just gives me more perspective. And then the more perspective I have, the more well-balanced I can be when thinking about my opinion on a film. And the more I can see, maybe I didn't give credence to something that a film did really well and I just missed it and somebody brought it up to me. For example, when I first saw Land of the Dead by George Romero, I didn't really love it too much. Had a nice long chat with a buddy of mine who was a big fan of his as well and enjoyed the movie. And we kind of went back and forth. And the things that he said about that film, when I watched it again, I had a completely new appreciation for what that film did well. And so I was like, man, how powerful is the conversation was so powerful. So, maybe we can do that with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, because I know it's a very divisive film as far as people's opinion. Medley Man says all of Rob Zombie's films, not only the Halloween ones, are unrated. People just seem to be severely biased against the Hellbilly style. Yeah, I think that Medley Man, I think the writing is probably what puts people off. And I think visually Rob Zombie is a great director. And I don't think that his stories are necessarily bad stories, but I think that maybe bringing in somebody that can, give a more well-rounded script. I think Rob Zombie writes characters in a way that I've never heard anyone talk like that. And at some point it starts to sort of separate me from the material. I think Kevin Smith kind of got like that for me a little bit, where it's oh, these characters are talking like characters in a Kevin Smith movie. And it's at some point it starts to pull you out. What worked for a filmmaker in the beginning is maybe not what they need to lean on and rest on. Don't rest on those laurels for your entire career. Continue to evolve, try some different things, etc., etc. Medley Man says he's going to piss everyone off by saying Return of the Jedi is better than Empire Strikes Back. Well, and Revenge of the Sith. Well, yeah, Revenge of the Sith is it's the best of the prequels, but it ain't great. And Return of the Jedi, I mean, I get it. The last act of Return of the Jedi is some of the best editing I've ever seen in filmmaking, and really powerful emotion in the last third of that film. I enjoy Empire Strikes Back more in its entirety as a film, but I think Return of the Jedi is every time that last act in multiple scenes, the last act gives me goosebumps, even makes me teary-eyed a little bit. Maybe not every time, but there is something really emotionally powerful about how Luke feels about his father, and that he's willing to put his life on the line to show his father that he's still in there, that Anakin still exists within Vader. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it right now. So, yeah, big time Star Wars nerd. Jamie says, I love Rob Zombie's style, and in my opinion, his unique style is what makes his work stand out so much. To me, he's up there with Lynch and Kubrick when it comes to being able to recognize that it's his. I can certainly see that. What was the movie he did? I'm forgetting the name. The Witches of Salem, the one that's like in that apartment building. Very Kubrickian as far as camera placement and symmetry. That's like one thing that Kubrick was really into, is like really beautiful symmetrical shots. And I think that Rob Zombie definitely takes something from that in the most positive way. I feel like filmmakers, you should wear your influences on your sleeve. Like, go ahead and do it, you know? Gavin doesn't mind Rob's dialogue, but he's from Jersey and we be cussin'. My own grandmother calls me dickhead. Yeah, but your grandmother probably doesn't like tell people that they're gonna crawl across the floor and skull fuck the shit out of anyone. She probably doesn't call anyone's butt a pooper when talking about it in a positive way. I just think there's certain things about Rob Zombie's movies that just sort of like stick out in a really awkward way. But who knows? Barry prefers Rogue One over all of them. Oof, well, we're definitely going to have to do a why we're wrong about Rogue One then, Barry, because I'm about as lukewarm as you can get on a movie like Rogue One. Talk about a movie that is completely unnecessary. I mean, it has its fun moments, but it's completely unnecessary. We already know. Everything that you need to know about that movie, you already know from watching the very first Star Wars film. Isn't that wild? Don't even need to watch Rogue One. It's all explained in the opening crawl. That's all you need. I have fallen so far behind. And really quick, guys, I do want to catch up on the chat. But I've had this franchise ranking graphic up for a while. And I do want to just really quick touch on what's coming up for the channel. Because we're closing in on 2 hours. I thought this stream was going to be like an hour. Figured, oh, no one's going to show up. I'll be in and out. But you guys are so great in the chat. I haven't said it yet on this stream, but you know what you guys bring as far as like you guys bring fuel to the fire here at the channel. You guys keep me motivated. You guys are the reason why I come back and do these streams and make the pre-recorded content. I love you all so much for subscribing to the channel, commenting on the videos, popping up here in the chat. Even if you're not able to stay the whole time, the people that have popped in just to say hi, it's really cool to show that they want to say, you know, what's up to you guys. You know, I always talk about, you know, building a community with the audience and with the content creators, and you guys make that all possible. So thank you so much. Really appreciate every single one of you. And I want to get back to the chat here, but I do want to touch on what we're going to be covering here coming up. So we've got on Saturday, May 11th, Movie Punks is coming back. Me and my guy, Foz Rotten, who's way out in West Virginia. We started a show last month. It's just one episode a month. And it'll be, each episode will be live, so you guys can jump in on the chat. The very first episode, we covered Night of the Demons 2 for its 30th anniversary. So if you want to go check that out, the stream is on the channel's main page. You can watch that. You can even watch along with the live chat as well. And so the idea for Movie Punks is that we cover a film that's got like kind of a punk rock edge. You know, there's something about it that to us, it feels like it embodies a punk rock spirit. So we're coming up on the 45th anniversary. Well, technically the 45th anniversary of the European release of Dawn of the Dead was last year, but it didn't come out in America until 1979. It had a limited release in New York and Pittsburgh in April of 1979, and then it debuted in Hollywood, California on May 11th, 1979. So our show is airing 45 years to the day from that. So we're going live Saturday, May 11th. We are covering the 45th anniversary of what for most people is the greatest zombie film of all time. Some people might even say it's the greatest film of all time, or in their top 5. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Dawn of the Dead is an absolute masterpiece. I love Night of the Living Dead, and I love most of George's Dead films. But if it weren't for Dawn of the Dead being what it was, who knows, you know, what we would have seen from George after that. So we're going to be talking all things Dawn of the Dead, sharing our memories, talking about what gives it a punk rock edge to us. And then, of course, we want to hear from you guys in the chat about your memories, your first time watching it, just your overall opinions, all that kind of good stuff. So May 11th, don't miss that one. We will be sharing it this week. And then the day after, I will be popping on to Movie Misfits over there with Chris Snyder. If you guys haven't subbed to Movie Misfits, go ahead and hop on over to his channel, give him a sub, set that notification bell, because we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Temple of Doom and the 35th anniversary of The Last Crusade by doing an entire Indiana Jones retrospective. Now, I've gone back and watched all of the movies, still need to watch Dial of Destiny, but I've watched all the other 4 films so far, put together my thoughts and everything like that. So we're just going to go film by film, talk about our, overall feelings of the franchise, talk about each film, and that one will be live as well. So another opportunity for you guys to meet a great content creator and jump on there and get that conversation going with us live in the chat. So really looking forward to that. And then the next thing I've got, the last thing I think I've got here, would be, oh, nothing, because I didn't get it put, oh, that's what it is. I meant to have a thumbnail done. I wasn't able to find the last guest, but we are going live on May 15th, Wednesday, May 15th at 10 p.m. Eastern. Late Night with the Davey is debuting. I wish I had a little graphic pulled up just so I could show you guys right now. But let me see if I can find it as we talk. Let's see here. This will be fun, right? Nothing quite like, trying to put together something here as we're live, huh? Let me know in the chat if you guys like seeing the camera shake as I type things into the, into the screen here or onto my laptop here. Yeah, let's see here. There we go. This has got to be the one. Boom. That wasn't so bad, right? So yeah, Late Night with the Davey is going live on May 15th. That'll be a weekly show. Every Wednesday we'll go live at 10 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be kind of like a late night talk show where I arrange to have guests on. So Cody from Dude Who Loves Movies is going to be on that first episode, as well as Matt Facci from Facci Cinema. And I'm still working on getting at least one more guest, either from the content creating community or, like an artist, some sort of creative type. I love bringing artists on, whether they, create music or visual art, whatever it is. But also one thing I really want to do here in the spirit of getting you guys more involved and getting closer as a community and, getting to know you guys more a little bit, is I want to bring some of you guys in. If you have any questions and you want to just hop on for like 5 minutes, throw me a question or two through a video chat. We'll be running through StreamYard, so I'll be able to send you a link. You just click on that link. I bring you onto the show. We chat for a few minutes, and it's a good opportunity for you to, get to, for other people to get to put a face to the name for the person that they usually chat with here. So please hit me up either in the comments section after the video posts here, or, hit me up with a DM on Twitter or Instagram if you would like to, have a quick little appearance on Late Night with the Davey. And even if you can't make that first show on the 15th, not a big deal. We'll be going live every Wednesday. So, you could just, whatever works for you will work for me. So yeah, let's see here. What I'll do is just go back to here. There we are. Back to the thumbnail. Look at that. I think this is one, Barry, that I sent you as an option for the stream that we did, and it just worked out to be able to use this for this thumb. So I'm going to hop back into the chat. We'll give it another handful of minutes here, guys, before, we just all go on with the rest of our lovely Sunday here. So Cody says he loves the Ewoks. Sue me. For what? I don't know. Nothing wrong with loving the Ewoks. There's, no problem there. I say, like what you like, and to hell with people who are going to make you feel bad for it. Maybe giving somebody like a good-natured ribbing over their opinion, I think is kind of fun. Like giving someone a little shit for it, but not taking it too seriously, right? Yeah, Wolfman prefers Rogue One over every single Star Wars movie. That is hardcore. Jamie prefers Revenge of the Sith. All right. We got some prequel love popping up in here. Lords of Salem. That's what it was called. Thank you, Jamie. I always appreciate the correction there. I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing here. Asylum Beyond the Dead is in the chat. Welcome, welcome. Davey, I heard that Wolfman's Got Nards is a murderer. What is that? Well, I think he totally kills it, totally kills it on his channel. Ashton says, I tried rewatching Rob Zombie's H2, but it doesn't do it for me. The characters are outside of Annie and Sheriff Brackett are unlikable. Well, certainly I could definitely understand that, Ashton. It is, Laurie is a different kind of Laurie than we're used to seeing in any other Halloween film. And, I think that's the thing is Rob Zombie does like writing kind of gross characters, dirty types. I think her friends are kind of fun in this movie. And, even the people in the strip club, like I don't mind that they're kind of like crappy people because right away they get their comeuppance. So it's sort of like, it's sort of setting it up for you to like kind of cheer on and root for their death. Which I think is a different kind of vibe to have in a Halloween movie as well. Something that we're more used to feeling in like a Friday the 13th when you're like, oh man, I can't wait till Jason kills this asshole. And I feel like we kind of get that in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We get it a little bit in the dreaded Halloween 5 because when Michael kills Michael, he's kind of a dick. I love how they make like the most nerdiest guy in Halloween 5. They cast like the skinniest, dorkiest looking guy and just put him in shades and a leather jacket, and we're supposed to think that he's some tough dude. Not buying it, Senator. Just not buying it. Andrew says, hear me out. What do you think of a horror thriller new Terminator movie? Well, I'd certainly be open to the Terminator returning to something that feels a little bit more like a horror. I think the first act of the first movie feels like a horror. I'm all up for that. I think that the Terminator movies were better when they were R-rated with gore than they've been since. And I'm one of those weirdos, though. I thought Genesis is like the best Terminator movie since T2. I just thought it was a kind of a creative way of like removing John from the story. Because if all you're going to do is every movie is going to be like, oh, well, now John's at risk in this part in his life. And I felt like the cool thing that Genesis did is it was like, all right, well, now John's off the table because he's the most evil Terminator, or he's been turned into the most evil Terminator of all time. So I thought that was actually pretty clever. But really, and then T3, I remember liking certain, like there's really cool action pieces in T3, but for the most part, the movie didn't do much for me. Think Rob Zombie should do a rom-com? Well, Greg, didn't he do the Munsters movie? Isn't that a romantic comedy? Cody Snyder says Return of the Jedi always kept him more engaged. I can see that for sure. Yeah. The Empire Strikes Back's that middle piece. And I find that in trilogies, I really like the middle piece. The two towers from the Lord of the Rings is my favorite in that story. I like when it ends on kind of like not the happiest of notes. But you know that there's more to come. So I kind of like that. Let's see here. Cody says, when I was 3, my family had a dog my dad named Ewok. That dog was mean to everyone outside of me, my siblings, and my parents. Oh, God, that's awesome. Ashton says, can we all agree anything is better than Disney Star Wars trilogy? Well, I really liked The Force Awakens, even though it is kind of like a soft reboot. I felt like it did enough differently outside of like having another Death Star. And I thought that we were set up for the potential of the second and third movies to be even better than The Force Awakens and to do their own thing, but also follow that storyline. And they did not. So I don't really enjoy The Last Jedi. Technically speaking, it's a beautiful looking film and it sounds great. All the technical stuff is there. So maybe it's kind of like with Halloween Ends where I'm like, hey, even if you hate the story of Halloween Ends, it looks great. The performances are good. The sound is awesome. You just don't like the story. And that's fair. And I think like with The Last Jedi, I really don't like the story. And then The Rise of Skywalker, I can hardly even remember. I only watched it once. I think bringing back Palpatine was such a cop-out and such a, like, all right, we just don't know what to do with this. The only thing that'll get half of the fans on board is if we just bring Palpatine back. I felt like they totally wasted Snoke as a character. I thought Snoke could have been like maybe a descendant of one of the Wills, one of the original like Force creatures, and maybe he was the first Force creature to delve into the dark side, and he was banished from his people had exiled him, and then he found a way to, and maybe he was even like ethereal, like he was like a piece of the Force. And the reason why Snoke's body looks like it's almost like molded together like a piece of clay, like his head kind of had this like spot that looked like it was just pushed together, that it's like the first body he's had possibly. And then it's like the more powerful he gets with the Force, the more his body would like be fully realized. I feel like all of the fan theories on Snoke were better than what the filmmakers did, which is a damn shame. Let's see here. Cody says, I watched The Force Awakens, watched the first 20 minutes of Last Jedi and spoiled the rest of it and rise for myself. Yeah, Ashton didn't bother with the other two. Wow, yeah. That's a scathing indictment right there. The 8th Star Wars is better than the 7th. I don't even know which one's the 8th. Is that Last Jedi? I don't even know. Thank you so much for hanging out, Barry. Really appreciate you popping into the chat, man. Have a great rest of your night. Cody says, Ashton, Dave McRae had his share of epic rants on Last Jedi and Johnson. Yeah, I am happy that Dave and I feel similarly about that. Because Dave is just so well thought out in his opinions and all that. Yeah. The camera shake is brilliant and gives the stream a found footage kind of feel. It is found footage, right? Technically speaking, yeah. Medley Man wants to know if I'm going to make a Discord server. I don't know. Like, there's so many things to keep track of. I still have a full-time job, and I don't... it's just me, and then sometimes my wife appears on the channel, and we do, I do streams with other content creators, but as far as like everything you're seeing here, it's just all homegrown, right? So a Discord server is something that I'm not necessarily against. I just don't know how well I'd be able to keep up on it. Guys, let me know in the chat, do you want to see a Davy Deathroy? Davy Viceroy. No, I'm just... Do you want to see, let's rewind it. Do you guys want to see a Davy Deathray Discord? Let me know in the chat. If you want it, I'll go ahead and start it, and you guys can say whatever the hell you want about me behind my back or right in front of my face, however you prefer, right? I can see like the playback on delay through YouTube as I scroll through the chat. It's hilarious. Cody Snyder, Andrew, Ashton, you guys watching Punk's IG stories? He's wandering around WWE headquarters. CM Punk, all right. So you got some wrestling chat in the going on here in the chat. Let's see here. Greg says, I never thought of Munsters as a rom-com, but I guess, yeah, you're right. I never watched that Munsters movie. It just looked so bad. It looked so cheap. And I love the Munsters TV show so much that I don't know if I can watch Rob Zombie just cast his friends and not really try to, do right by the series. I feel like the trailers just didn't do anything for me. Ashton says, I'll join it, but I'm rarely active in Discord. That's the whole thing is like I kind of, we do the live chat here, comment section on the videos. I try to... follow you guys on Insta as well when I see somebody follow me, or even if your account just like pops up. So between Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, I feel like I, get a pretty good amount of interaction here. Maybe as the channel grows, Medley Man, maybe, we get to that 1,000 mark membership, and once I'm able to actually start doing memberships here on YouTube, and we can do super chats, which we're really close. We just need our watch hours. I'm close to about 1,100 watch hours, and I need to hit 3,000 before August hits to be eligible for that. So the more you guys watch these videos, the more you share with others and they watch, that fills that up. That's the last metric I need to hit before we can do memberships and super chats here, which would be great because I would love to do members only streams, and maybe something like this. Maybe these Sunday streams would be for members only. because everyone could get Late Night with the Davey on Wednesdays. So maybe I just reserve some things just for those members, and it's just a little more intimate. So that would be cool. I'd love to set that kind of stuff up. And of course, we could do like movie watch-alongs with the members. Stuff like that would be really fun as well. Medley Man says, you don't really have to manage a server as much as you think you do. It would just be an easy way to get some people to talk on your show, as you mentioned. Okay, cool. Well, I will look into it and get it going. Chad's Corner is here. What's happening? Welcome to the chat. Chad, you were coming in right at the end, but hey, we talked a whole bunch of fun stuff. Went over not only what was covered here on the channel and what's coming up, but we really dove into kind of like modern horror filmmaking, and, you know, why some films, you know, are maybe overhyped and don't really seem to land as well as we want them to. And we also talked a whole bunch about like recasting Freddy for A Nightmare on Elm Street. So if you're interested in that, you can rewind on that one. Yeah, guys, I think I will wrap it up here. We've been going just over 2 hours. So, man, you guys made this a successful stream. I thought when I jumped in and it was just myself sitting here, I was like, well, maybe this one will be a half hour and I'll just fly through everything. But it's been great chatting with you guys here. Gosh, we even got into Star Wars talk, which turns into its own animal. A whole bunch of Near Dark talk. Lance Henriksen's birthday is today. He turns 84. So we had some chat going on there in the live chat. And yeah, guys, please hit the like button if you haven't yet on your way out. Hit subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. And yeah, let others know about the channel so we can grow this thing and get to where we're going. We're so close to 600 subs. If we could reach that today, that would be amazing. Yeah, coming up this week on Saturday, we've got Movie Punks is returning. We're covering Dawn of the Dead. We're doing that live. And then on Sunday, May 12th, I'll be over there on Movie Misfits talking about the entire Indiana Jones franchise. So really pumped about that. And yeah, please hit me up with a DM on Twitter or Instagram if you'd like to appear on Late Night with the Davey. I'm still looking for one more creative as a guest, and then any of you guys that want to chime in with a question or two for me and you want to appear on video or even just on audio, please hit me up. I'd love to get some things lined up just so the show can go as smoothly as possible. It'll be interesting doing like a live talk show kind of thing because I've never done it before. But, you know, one thing about doing this channel is trying some new things. You know, maybe jumping into something that might seem a little uncomfortable and just getting more comfortable as we go. So really appreciate each and every one of you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you for showing up here in the chat, hanging out with me on this beautiful Sunday, this Cinco de Mayo. If you celebrate, then get out there and celebrate. Go have a Modelo Especial. Eat some tacos, however you want to celebrate. I'm tempted now, based on what we've chatted on here, I kind of want to watch The Force Awakens because I missed out on doing that on May the 4th. So maybe I'll pop that in here at some point today. But yeah, guys, I will see you here later on this week. Thank y'all so much. You guys are amazing. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope the Sunday scaries don't even hit you at all. So thank y'all so much. And until next time, I've been and will continue to be Davey Deathray. Take care.